the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Good evening and welcome to the National News broadcast, bringing to you live from the National News Studios here at the Lankan Rupavahini Corporation. We are ready to bring you the top stories here at home and around the world. I am Charita Minapurarachi.
And I'm Sharifa Tahir. A very good evening to you. We take a look at the headlines first.
The G7 heads of state praised the measures taken to resolve Sri Lanka's economic crisis. The Canadian High Commissioner in Sri Lanka has been called to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to inquire on a statement made by the Canadian Prime Minister. Japanese government assistance to establish the Mahanayaka University. Drone operations to detect dengue breeding places in apartment buildings. Small paddy mill owners say that rice price could be reduced. The maize importation tax on preposture food processing has been reduced by 50 rupees. A new board of officials for the Sri Lankan cricket. G7 leaders pledge to strengthen sanctions against Russia.
We move on to those and other stories in detail now. G7 leaders have issued a statement welcoming the launch of creditors meeting for Sri Lanka under the three co-chairs France, India and Japan.
The G7 leaders have emphasized that they are looking forward to a swift resolution as a successful model for future multilateral efforts to address the debt issues of middle-income countries. They also stressed the importance of private creditors providing debt treatments on terms at least as favorable to ensure fair burden sharing in line with the comparability of treatment principle. G7 leaders further said that they would welcome the development of climate-resilient debt clause to enhance the safety net for browsers facing the impacts of climate change. The summit communique was also said that the G7 welcome work by their finance ministers on this topic and encourage more creditors to offer climate-resilient debt clause for loan agreements. In order to enhance debt data accuracy and transparency, they invited all official bilateral creditors to join the data sharing exercise for debt data reconciliation, including thorough finance advising and G20's initiative in the area of debt data accuracy.
Foreign Minister Ali Sabri summoned the Canadian High Commissioner Eric Walsh and condemned and rejected the outright statement issued by the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on the 18th of May 2023. Minister Sabri stated that the politically motivated statement was divisive and was issued for domestic political consumption in Canada and said that Sri Lanka is vehemently rejecting the unsubstantiated allegation of genocide relating to the country's almost 3 decades of terrorist conflict perpetuated by the LTTE. Minister Sabri also observed that the inaccurate and provocative allegations in the statement will lead to polarizing Sri Lankans at this particular juncture when the government is working towards economic stability, peace and reconciliation for all. He further emphasized that arbitrary and erroneous use of genocide on Sri Lanka is driven by a small section of the politically motivated anti-Sri Lanka elements in the diaspora with a separatist agenda. He also briefed that as long-standing bilateral partner, Sri Lanka would urge the cooperation of the Canadian government and encourage a mutually supportive relationship between the two countries, whilst constructively engaging the community of Sri Lankan heritage in Canada to work towards realizing our common objectives of inclusive development and substantial peace.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe says the cooperation of the Japanese government is anticipated in the establishment of the Mahanayaka University. The proposed institution is expected to be established as an international level university for the studying of the Theravada Buddhism. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has made these remarks when he called on Mahanayaka Thera of Malwata and Askari chapters this morning. The President has initially visited the Malwata Mahavihara and sought the blessings of the Mahasangha headed by Most Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Sumangala Thera. The President has added that he hopes to receive aid for the establishment of the Mahavihara University during his forthcoming foreign tours. President Ranil Wickremesinghe stated that he intends to seek the Japanese government's assistance during his upcoming visit to Japan to establish a Mahavihara University, an international standard university to study Theravada Buddhism. The president expressed that the hope is to get the contribution of Buddhist countries like Thailand and Bhutan for the purpose. President Ranil Wickremesinghe also submitted a bill to amend the Buddhist Temple Trees Ordinance and establish a Theravada monk disclosure to seek the guidance of the chief prelates of the Malvatu and Askari chapters. The chief prelates pointed out that the importance of formalizing the Tripitaka Conservation Bill and the Buddhist Publications Regulations Act. The President instructed the Secretary of the Ministry of Buddha Sasana to prepare amendments to the Tripitaka Conservation Bill and the Buddhist Publications Text Regulatory Act to be submitted to the Cabinet. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has also enlightened the Mahanayaka theorists on the draft bill on Vihara Devalagam Act and the Bhikkhu Katikavata Act. The President has also expressed opinions regarding revisions to be made in the process of selecting Nilamains. The President, upon arrival at the Asgiri Mahavihara, has called on Mahanayaka Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Jnanaratana Thera. The Mahasangha, headed by Mahanayaka Thera, has chanted Pirit on the group, including the President, and extended blessings. The presidential delegation was also included Senior Presidential Advisor and Chief of Staff of the President Sagala Ratnayaka and Provincial Governor Lalit Yugamage. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has also called on Bishop of Kandy, retired Reverend Dr. Valens Mendes, at the Bishop's house in Kandy. The President, upon inquiring the well-being of the Right Reverend, has focused special attention on the problems faced by the general public in the plantation sector. It has been pointed out that although the plantation community has been staying in their underdeveloped housing schemes for over 200 years, concrete measures have not yet been taken to uplift their living conditions. The Right Reverend Bishop of Kandy has enlightened the President on several other issues affecting the education sector in the central province. Chief of Staff of the President Sagala Ratnayaka has instantly connected the Secretary of Ministry of Education and took measures to resolve the problems immediately. Several MPs and ministers have also accompanied the President in this tour.
Drone cameras are being used to monitor possible mosquito breeding places in apartment housings. The program got underway today and several possible breeding places have been identified in the Western Province, and accordingly the Dengue Control Unit with the assistance of the Air Force was engaged in spraying chemicals on the identified places. Chemicals are being sprayed at high elevations in buildings which the public health inspectors have no access. The Dengue Control Unit says the chemicals destroy mosquito larvae and there is no chance of laying mosquito eggs. The process is to be continuous until the elimination of dengue threat in the island. The drones will engage in daily operations through cooperation of every medical officer of Health Division in the districts of Colombo, Kaluthura and Gampaha. 35,419 dengue patients have been reported from the island up to now this year. The highest number of patients were reported from the Gampaha district in the Western Province, which included 7,978 patients. In the Colombo district, 7,411 patients have been identified. There has been 2,121 dengue patients in the Kaluthura district. By taking into consideration of the threat, a special dengue control program has been implemented from the 12th to the 26th of this month. Within a one-week period, 15,784 houses have been inspected and possible 2,227 mosquito breeding places have been detected. Legal measures have been taken regarding premises where dengue mosquito larvae were found during the inspections. Red notices have been issued in 528 housing premises. The National Non-Infectious Diseases Unit says between 300 to 400 dengue patients are being reported daily during the period of rainy water. A dengue control program was also implemented in the Piliandala Medical Officer of Health Division today. The operation has been jointly conducted by the health officials, the police and the Casbah Urban Council. 265 houses have been inspected and 21 dangerous places have been detected. 15 locations where mosquito larvae were present have been found. Well, in the meantime, we're going to move on to more stories. The Farab, the company in charge of construction of the Uma Oya Multipurpose Water Supply Project, has informed the Ministry of Power yesterday that the company is now in a position to complete first stage of constructions of the Uma Oya project and to add power to the national grid by August of this year.
120 megawatts of power are to be included in the national grid through the Uma Oya Multipurpose Project under 2 stages. A group of officials headed by Director of the Farab Management Institute, Ali Wakil, has disclosed this fact at a discussion at the Ministry of Power and Energy yesterday. Under the second stage, second power installment will be added to the national grid by September of this year. Pusalla, Anicut and the canal are also being constructed in parallel to this process as a means to irrigate water to around 275 acres and 2,100 acres of lands at the Lunugambahela Divisional Secretariat Division in Panamalvilla and Velavaya.
Small and medium-scale Paddy Meal Owners Association says that they are able to provide a kilo of rice for a price as low as 170 to 180 rupees if the government intervenes in the process of purchasing paddy from the farmers as it was implemented in the previous cultivation season. President of the association, UK Semasinghe, has disclosed this fact at a media briefing in Anuradhapura. President of the Small and Medium-Scale Paddy Mill Owners Association, UK Semasinghe, has requested to allocate funds for the district secretaries to purchase paddy as it was done in the previous cultivation seasons. He also points out that such funds could be sent through the Divisional Secretariat Division's offices for the small and medium-scale paddy owners to purchase paddy stocks from the farmers. He adds that, however, the rice mafia is making an undue profit of between 50 to 60 rupees from each kilo of rice. He has also requested the intervention of the President to break the rice monopoly. The Small and Medium-Scale Paddy Mill Owners Association further points out that their ability to convert paddy into rice and release the stocks to the Sathosa and the cooperative network. Minister Mahinda Amaravira said that there is an ambiguity in the statements made by the paddy mill owners. He added that retail price of a kilo of rice is less than 140 rupees. In Hambantota also the retail price was below 135 rupees. The minister also said they will take measures to sell rice at a reasonable price below 140 rupees from next week.
A common feature witnessed throughout the island at present is the addition of novel items for the beautification of residences. Exquisite or ornamental fish receive a special status in this connection. Some people have not restricted this practical slowly as a form of attraction, and they have gone further and transformed it into a form of earning foreign exchange through the exportation of beautiful fish. Sri Lanka's exquisite fish breeding is mainly centered on 3 districts, Colombo, Gampaha and Kalutara. Amidst all appropriate locations in Colombo, Paduka has been identified as most suitable for ornamental fish breeding. So far, the exquisite fish industry has been successful, earning 5% out of the total foreign exchange earning of the country. Sri Lanka has already bagged gold medals in international competitions of selecting best forms of ornamental fish. Around 100 types of guppy fish are being locally produced, and especially in Paduka area. Sri Lanka is currently breeding around 600 types of beautiful fish varieties. 100 ornamental fish breeding villages are already located in Paduka. The National Aquatic Culture Development Authority says it is prepared to provide guidance to any person interested in earning foreign exchange by their homes by engaging in exotic fish breeding.
The commodity tax imposed on the importation of a kilo of maize needed for Triposha manufacturing has been reduced to 25 rupees from 75 rupees with effect from the 18th of this month. A state company under the Ministry of Health is engaged in the production of Triposha to fulfill the nutritional requirements of the children. Triposha production was compelled to be halted completely in the recent past as a result of the shortage of maize. However, until now, there had not been any changes in the taxation of imported food varieties such as corn or maize. Minister Ranjit Singh Velapitiya said that when enough local maize is produced in quantities for industries, it could also be utilized for the production of Triposha. He also stated that the maize quantities needed by Triposha manufacturers in order to maintain the nutrition of children are given at a concessionary tax rate, and the rest is taxed at 75 rupees in order to protect the farmers.
Farmers of Rajarata have expressed their gratitude to the government for providing fertilizer at the appropriate moment, enabling them to commence yellow season farming without any difficulty. They have also pointed out that they are harvesting paddy lands this season which had been abandoned in the previous seasons due to problematic reasons. In the recent past, farmers were confronted with many difficulties as a result of halting of the importation of urea fertilizer. Although the ban was lifted and fertilizer was important, yet the farmers were unable to engage in their cultivations in the proper manner for not being able to receive fertilizer stocks in time. The farmers point out that, however, the government has taken the appropriate measures to provide not only fertilizer but fuel as well prior to the commencement of the yellow season. President Ranil Wickremesinghe and several other public representatives had paid the last respects to the remains of late Mahanayaka of Sri Lanka, Amarapura Mahanayaka, Most Venerable Thudampahala Chandrasiri Thera.
The funeral ceremony of the late Chief Prelate will be conducted with full state patronage at the Independence Square in Colombo tomorrow. The national television will engage in a live commentary on the funeral ceremony with effect from 2 p.m. tomorrow. Remains of the Most Venerable Thudampahala Chandrasiri Thera are being kept at the Sri Tapovana Sangha headquarters in Kalapaluwava. The Mahasangha says the demise of the late Mahanayaka Thera, who had lived according to Aranya tradition and engaged in authoring books and propagating meditation, had rendered an invaluable service to the country and the Buddha Sasana. The passing away of the Mahanayaka Thera is also an irreparable loss for the young Bhikkhu community.
The Central Cultural Fund and Uva Province Tourism Ministry have jointly engaged in the implementation of a boat service for tourists in the Buduruvagala. Minister of Cultural Affairs Vidura Vikramanayake has officially declared open the boat service yesterday. There's a distance of 2 kilometers in the Buduruvagala archaeological site from the Thanamal Villa Monaragala Main Road. The new ferry service has also enabled tourists to visit the archaeological sites by making use of the boat service. The visitors are able to watch the rare and exquisite animal species such as deer, birds and elephants during their boat tours. Villagers in Buduruvagala have also been benefited by being able to enhance their economic conditions by assisting fishermen in riding the boat. The Buddha and Bodhisattva statues at the archaeological site are considered to have been built in the 7th and 8th centuries. Buduruvagala archaeological monuments have earned special attraction of local and foreign tourists visiting the area tourist zone.
Well, we'll be back with more local stories after a short break.
டெபிட் அட்டை, மொபைல் மற்றும் இன்டர்நெட் பேங்கிங், கார்ட்லெஸ் கேஷ் உடன் 10 நிமிடங்களில் வங்கி கணக்கை திறக்க முடியும். பீப்பிள்ஸ் பேங்க் டிஜிட்டல் பேங்கிங் உடன் இணையுங்கள்.
நல்ல நேரம் தெரிஞ்சு கொண்டேன், டீ குடிக்கிற நேரம் கூட போகல.
பீப்பிள்ஸ் பேங்க் டிஜிட்டல் பேங்கிங், உண்மையான சுதந்திரம்.
Welcome back with more local stories. And Shammi Silva has been elected as the new president of Sri Lanka cricket for the next 2 years.
The Sri Lanka cricket has made an official announcement in this regard. The 62nd general session of the Sri Lanka cricket was held in Colombo today. On this occasion, Shammi Silva was unanimously appointed as president for the second time. This was the third occasion of him assuming duties as president of Sri Lanka cricket. Ravin Vikramaratne and Jayant Dharmadasa have also been elected as vice presidents. The newly elected secretary of Sri Lanka cricket is Mohan De Silva. Sujiva Godaliyadda has been elected as the treasurer and Krishantha Kapuatta as the deputy treasurer.
Our executive committee where we had a discussion. We want to get a missed World Cup opportunity again. We missed the World Cup, holding a World Cup alone because of bad presentation by the certain people. Because if we had the 5 grounds, we would have held the World Cup 2026 in Sri Lanka. But because of we gave a proposal to build another grounds, squashed by the few people. So now because of that we lost, the country lost. So in time to come, I want to Sri Lanka to get few more World Cup tournaments in Sri Lanka to host it. At the same time, then most of the now even the if you have another stadium and 5 to 6 stadium, we can get certain tournaments who can't play in different countries to play in Sri Lanka. Other objective is to win the World Cup. Everybody's idea is number one is our Sri Lanka cricket team to do well, develop the. So at the moment we are getting lot of youngsters. We are identifying. We are doing lot of improvements. We are going to get so many coaches now. We have we are trying to get so many coaches, but it's not like those days. Very difficult to get the coaches because they all are engaged with the leagues. So anyway, we are trying to get a few good coaches and our local coaches.
Minister Bandula Gunawardena says the opposition leader who is making statements regarding the government creating a false monster in connection with the debt restructuring process must divulge to the world that he is going to do after taking charge of the country. The minister has made these remarks at a ceremony held in Bibile today. The ceremony has been conducted in connection with the handing over of buses to the Bibile depot received through the Indian credit line. The value of each bus was 11 million rupees. 47 buses have already been provided to the Uva province. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that he also emphasized that Sri Lankan government has not been able to make an income to cover up its daily expenses, no matter which president ruled the country. He further stated that local and international loans help to develop the country, including paving roads, supplying electricity. He also said that there is a 50 billion debt and the opposition leader is accusing them without proposing a solution to pay out the debt. Pollination is a fundamental requirement for the existence of the ecosystem. Flying insects such as a bee and wasp contribute in the conducting of this essential activity.
This story is on such a useful living being on the World Bees Day, which falls today. Bees and wasps directly contribute towards food security and conservation of biodiversity. They are the important carriers of pollen and their contribution is invaluable for sustainable development. The theme of World Bees Day today is flying creatures which engage in pollination and which are of extreme importance for agricultural production. Latest reports have revealed that there is a threat of extinction of nearly 35% of invertebrate pollinators and nearly 17% of vertebrate pollinators. The life of the world depends upon the process of pollination. The importance of focusing attention on the threats being confronted due to human activities by these most valuable species are being highlighted on this crucially important day.
Navy takes over the administration authority of the National Rifle Association of Sri Lanka for the 2023 to 2025. The administration authority of the National Rifle Association of Sri Lanka, held by the Sri Lanka Army, was taken over by the Sri Lanka Navy for the forthcoming 2-year term of 2023 to 2025 at the annual general meeting held on 18th May 2023 at Lighthouse Gallery, Colombo. The National Rifle Association of Sri Lanka is the controlling body of practical shooting, metallic shell-out shooting and sporting clay shooting and any other non-Olympic shooting disciplines in Sri Lanka. An association is under both the Ministry of Defence and the Ministry of Sports. As per the Constitution of National Rifle Association, the Office Administration Authority of the association will be under supervision of the Tri-Forces Commander of the Navy, appointed the Commander Banjula Disanayaka as the President of the association. He is a well-experienced shooter and he has held the Treasurer and Secretary of the association in the previous 2 tenures. He, in addition, the Captain DMDC Bandara, Commander Lalit Mudyanse, Lieutenant Commander Madhushankar Khatriyarachi, Lieutenant LTRBY Tambulugala, Lieutenant GRSB Ratmalana has also been appointed from the Navy. The meeting was conducted with the participation of 24 representatives from 13 shooting clubs across the country. And meanwhile, Sri Lankan Festival 2023, jointly organized by the Japan and Sri Lanka, has got underway at the Kamagaya city grounds in Japan today. Sri Lankan ambassador in Japan, Rodney Perry's mayor of Kamagaya, Shivato Hiromi, have presided over the event. The main target of the festival is to propagate the tourism image of Sri Lanka among the Japanese nationals. The exhibition displays many Sri Lankan foods and beverages as well as produce of the island. It has also been reported that there is a higher demand for such Sri Lankan foods and products from the Japanese people.
Hambantota International Port welcomed 2,200 tourists who arrived on cruise liner Mine ships yesterday. The vessel is on a 60-day cruise from Hong Kong to Greece, visiting several ports in Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Oman, Jordan and Egypt in between. The cruise ship passengers had approximately 12 hours in Hambantota, and during the short stay, the international visitors visited the Yala National Park, Udawalawe Wildlife Park as well, and historical rock temple of Mulkirigala, which are among the top attractions for visitors to the Hip. The Bundala National Park, Hambantota Botanical Gardens, Gaul and Kataragama were popular destinations among the cruise ship's passengers. Mine Ship 5, which docked at the Hip in November last year, was the first passenger cruise ship to call at the port after the pandemic.
Welcome back with international news. And leaders of the G7 country have pledged to tighten sanctions aimed at punishing Russia for its invasion of Ukraine, intensifying what is already one of the hardest sanctions efforts ever implemented. The move came on the first day of the three-day G7 summit in Japan and marked the latest sanctions and export controls targeting Moscow, which have hit thousands of targets and imposed steep curbs on Russia over its full-scale invasion of Ukraine last year. The G7 leaders said in a statement released after closed-door meetings on Friday that their support for Ukraine will not waver, and also pledged to stand together against Russia's illegal, unjustifiable and unprovoked war of aggression against Ukraine, and said that Russia started this war and can end this war. A statement issued by the G7 leaders said restrictions could cover exports of industrial machinery, tools and technology useful to conduct exports of industrial machinery. Russia's war efforts, while the first would be profused to limit Russian revenues from trade in metals and diamonds.
Prima Katami Fantamai.
On to your sports update, Rajasthan Royals team beat Punjab Kings by 4 wickets in an India Premier League cricket tournament match played in Dharmshala in India yesterday.
For their last game for the big
At the very same time. I'm Charita, signing off with Sharifa. Stay there. Good night.
Good night.